Hey folks, my name's Noah Lynch, and you're listening to the Slawcast.
Down in Arkansas, they serve you coleslaw, chopped up finer than a bale of straw. When you crunch and gnaw, a bunch of coleslaw.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Slawcast with your host Noah Lynch. I am Noah Lynch. I'm the 2-time winner, 3-time nominee, didn't quite get it this year, the Pulitzer Prize in the category of side dish nonfiction, 4-time Coleslaw Reviewer of the Year by Time Magazine, 30 Under 30 Coleslaw Media Luminary, and the host of the #1 Coleslaw Advice podcast on the planet. And today marks probably the most exciting episode of the Slawcast I can ever remember recording. The first episode of the Summer of Slaw 2021, the new annual event and probably the most anticipated event of the year in the coleslaw industry. Now that means a few things, first of which is we have official Summer of Slaw 2021 Slawcast t-shirts. If you want one, you're going to have to get a hold of me so we can figure out if I've got to ship it out or whatever it is. That could be via Facebook message, text message, Facebook comment, YouTube comment. I probably won't see, but you can try, and if I don't get to you in a few days, you maybe just email me, which brings me to, you don't email me, email my mom. That's Mama Slaw. That's M-A-M-A, Slaw. I'm assuming you can spell that. Mama Slaw 6969 at gmail.com. And on that note, there's been some kind of controversy about the numbers that I added onto the end of my mom's email when I was making her an email for the show. And just to explain it, even though it feels ridiculous to do it, but first of all, 6 is my favorite number. And then 9th grade is when I peaked both mentally and physically. So I combined those two, and then I added on a second set on the end for dramatic effect. That's all it is. Don't read too much into it. So with that being said, mamaslaw6969 at gmail.com if you want to get a t-shirt. The second thing it means is that there's a new upload schedule coming up. It's going to be a lot more frequent than we're used to. In fact, in the last 2.5 years of doing the Slawcast, there is 11 episodes. So if you divide that out for all my mathematicians out there, I think that's about every 3 months you get a new episode. In the next 3 months, we're going to have 26 new episodes. And that means every Monday and every Friday for the next 3 months, there's going to be an episode of the Slawcast. So if you're keeping score, that's a whole lot more Slawcast in the near future. So every year we're going to have a goal for the Summer of Slaw. And this year we're starting off big. We're finding the best slaw out there, which we're going to do by comparing a various set of characteristics for each coleslaw that we try over the course of the summer. Now, not only are we going to be tasting and comparing a lot of coleslaws this summer, but also we're going to brush up on current events in the coleslaw industry because let's face it, unless you live in a very, very small town, the coleslaw world is not necessarily on the front page of your newspaper. And we're going to do the classic Slawcast thing. We're going to answer some questions and give out some good advice. So if you have questions to ask, I'm actually going to open it up to everyone in the public now. Those same avenues that you're using to contact me for the t-shirts, if you got a question, ask me a question and we'll get some answers. Not only that, but I kind of want to try for the special event, the Summer of Slaw, I want to try having some live discussions and having guests on the show. So, if you want to be a guest on the Slawcast, if you got some ideas and some opinions about coleslaw, which let's face it, we all do, contact me and we'll set up a meeting just to make sure that we can schedule it out and it's going to work for everyone. Okay, so now that we're done with the introduction to the event, let's get into our actual episode and our actual review for the first day of the Summer of Slaw 2021. Now, this coleslaw comes from humble beginnings. I'm going to tell you that because a lot of people are going to count it out when I tell you that it's from a grocery store deli. Now, I shouldn't be the first one to tell you, but I'm going to remind you, you never want to judge a book by its cover, okay? Slaws can come from any walk of life, anywhere, any restaurant, any grocery store, prepackaged or homemade, and can surprise you. Now, this is going to kind of be the first part of a 3-part trilogy here because I walked up to the deli and I asked the woman for a pound of coleslaw, and she said, hey, which one do you want? Because we got 3 different kinds. Now, the first of which I thought was good to start with, just given, the event going on, is called a Summer Slaw. It is $3.49 a pound. Now, price does play into this for me, and it should for you too. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say this $3.49 a pound slaw is perfect and you love it. Then you go and you buy a $5 a pound slaw, and it tastes about the same. I'm going to tell you 10 times out of 10, I'm going to pick the $3.49 a pound slaw and laugh all the way to the bank with my $1.51 savings. And as far as customer experience and atmosphere goes, I have nothing to complain about. The ladies over at JC always do a great job. She offered me the 1 pound containers, and she showed me the big boy, the 5 pound container, but I figured, you know what, I'll just take a pound because I'm going to take one of each, so I'm really going to end up with 3 anyway. Now, one of the things I want to do is check the accuracy of the weight that she gave me. So if I look at the label, it tells me I got 0.87 pounds, which came out to being I paid $3.04 for the container. Now, as long as they're close, I'm going to go ahead and give it to them just because they're using a Mettler Toledo UC Evo scale. Now, that's pretty much the best in the business. I mean, there are crack dealers that use this stuff to measure out very fine amounts of cocaine. And I mean, when have you met a crack dealer that wants to give out free cocaine? You know what I mean? That's how accurate these things are. And in comparison, I'm using a food scale that I got at TJ Maxx for $6. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on the food scale. And I get about 14 ounces, which I did the numbers before I started the episode. And that's about 0.87 pounds. So I'm happy with that. The one thing I do have a complaint about, and I don't really know if this is a standard in the industry. I mean, I know coleslaw, but I don't exactly know the deli industry. One of the things she did is she put the lid on the container before she weighed it. Now, I mean, I'm not trying to be too picky, but when's the last time you ate a plastic lid and they're technically charging you for that? You know, I mean, they could make up the 0.87 with just slaw and then add on the lid afterwards. I mean, that's just a small gripe, though. That's not going to really be that big of a deal. I'm not going to count it against it, at least. Next, I'm going to go on to reading the ingredients list. Now, this is more going to be cool to compare the different JC coleslaws because I got them sitting in front of me right now, and I'm going to tell you they kind of look very similar. So as far as actual quality of ingredients, I'm not expecting a lot, and I don't expect a lot for most of these slaws just because, you know, in today's world, unless you're making it straight out of your backyard garden, there's going to be some additives for flavor and preservatives and stuff like that. You just kind of have to accept that in today's world. So we'll start from the top here. Green cabbage. That's a good start. Dressing. And then in parentheses with the dressing, it says corn syrup, soybean oil, water, vinegar, egg yolk, modified cornstarch, salt, sugar, xanthan gum, spiced lemon, juice concentrate, natural buttermilk. I mean, the list goes on and on. That's mostly just the dressing, I guess. But I mean, we get the point, right? It's going to be mostly cabbage and dressing, it seems like, which is pretty accurate to what I'm looking at. It's a very, very high liquid content coleslaw, which will be good for some and not so good for others. I'm going to try and stay objective throughout this whole thing, though. And you know what? I mean, there's really no time like the present, so I'm going to go ahead and take a bite. I'm going to try and do it a little bit away from the mic. I don't really want to gross anyone out with this, but we'll do a live reaction right here. So on the nose, I'm getting actually a very nostalgic aroma. I smell the cabbage. That dressing is a little interesting. It smells almost artificial. I'm getting some nutty notes, some earthy notes. Overall, I would say, you know, as far as first impressions go, just opening the container, I'm already maybe at a 6 out of 10, and I'm waiting to be more impressed before I give anything else. Now, I am just going back and forth, slishing this liquid around. There is a lot. It's almost like a soup. I'm not going to lie to you. So, and that's actually a thin dressing too, which I did not expect. It's a little thinner than I would have thought. If I grab my spoon, I'm going to go ahead and look at the underbelly. Now this is I would call it a chunky slaw. It's not finely shredded. It's chunks. It's almost diced, if that makes sense. Now looking at our underbelly, I mean, you're looking at dressing there. Might as well just be a bowl of that dressing from the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and take my first bite. Now I'm going to try and get a little bit of everything in there, and let's see what this first impression is like. Wow. Wow. Now I'm going to tell you, I almost want to shut off the microphone and just get to work on this pound of coleslaw right here. That is very surprising. I'm extremely happy with that, actually. You know, the high moisture content really doesn't bother me too much. Man, I'm actually a fan of this, folks. I'm going to tell you what, we started off with a pretty good one. Now, this isn't going to be on the level of, you know, homemade or anything like that. I think we're still short of that. But I don't think you should expect that from a slaw like this either. Compared to the other coleslaws available at JC, this is the most expensive by quite a bit. Actually, the next most expensive is $2.99. So this outprices it by 50 cents a pound. Is it worth it? We'll know once we try the others. Initially, I'm going to say, you know what? I almost think it might be worth it. I don't want to take too long. I'm not going to take another bite on the mic, but I will be finishing this after this episode. I'm going to tell you that much. For me, obviously this one ranks number one right now because it is the first coleslaw, but I really enjoyed that. If you put that in a container and brought it to a family get together, I'd almost be convinced that you made that yourself. I mean, it's that good. So anyway, this has been the first episode of the Summer of Slaw 2021. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And please come back for the next episode later this week where we go into the second of the 3 JC coleslaws. We're going to find out if that 50 cents a pound is really worth it or not. In the meantime, if you want a t-shirt, reach out. It doesn't cost you a thing. I'm going to give it to you for free. The only thing I ask is if someone asks you about the t-shirt you're wearing, you point them in my direction and you let me handle the rest. Now with that being said, I'm Noah Lynch. That was the Slawcast. Until next time, I'll saw you later.
No bread, no meat, no potatoes and nothing that's sweet. All I want is a lot of coleslaw.